So welcome to Stan State's third Grad Slam event. This year we have 37 students participations. Yay! Break the record. First year, how many students we had? If you was around 8. We had 8 students first year, and then last year we had 17 students. Now we more than doubled. Yeah, that's great. On behalf of our office, we thank you all, students, faculty, and staff, for your enthusiastic support. Yeah. I would like to take a few minutes to introduce today's judge. We have 4 judges today. 3 are our graduate student alums, and 1 is special guest judge. Let me introduce this way. Go this way. Get ready? You stand up. Wave your hand. Okay. Brian Whitemare. Yes. He is the city manager of the city of Oakdale for 11 years. He received his BA in political science and a master of public administration from Stan State. Double degree here. Previously, he served as the city manager for the city of Hawkinson over the last 2 decades. He also worked for the communities of Patterson, Modesto, Sierras. Oh my God, you know everybody in your neighborhood. He lives in Oakdale with his wife, Kinda, and 4 children, where he enjoys playing tennis and pickleball. I'm sure if he participates in any competition, he will win because his family will be the best cheering team. 4 kids, cheering, Daddy, number 1, Our second judge is Gabrielle Nuno. Gabrielle is executive director for the Advising and the Success Center at the Stan State. Gabrielle is 3-time alum from Stan State. Who are the 3-time alum? Wow, yeah, incredible. She earned her doctorate degree in education leadership, master's in public administration, and a bachelor in sociology. She has 18 years experience in higher education. Gabrielle is known as collaborative leader and passionate advocate for equity-driven change. That's why we hire her Judge Fairy for everybody, right? One fun fact, Dr. Nuno participated in CSU statewide research competition when she was an undergraduate student. Guess what? We still have this annual student research competition today. This year, we will send 10 students, just like Dr. Nuno did, to the Cal Poly St. Louis Bispo for CSU-wide research competition. How cool it is. So if next year you're still around, do that. You have trouble to go in there. The third judge is George Gongora. George is a police lieutenant since 2017. He received his BA in political science and a master of public administration at the Stan State. Double degrees. Yeah. Previously, he worked at the UC Merced Police Department since 2007 and a Phase 2 facilitator for Parent Leadership Training Institute. Very, very cool. For Merced County Office of Education. Now, I have a question for George because you didn't provide me the information I need. I remember you mentioned your 2 boys were taking care of 3 chickens last year. How are they all doing? The boy tell me how many chickens you have or other rabbits or stuff.
4, now it's 3.
4, now you have 4 chickens.
No, what's 4 now? It's 3.
That's 4, now 3. Okay, come back to 3. Okay, that's good. Thank you. The last judge, but not the least, is a special invitation judge this year, Evelyn Ramos. She is the interim director for the Career and Professional Development Center at the Stan State. A Central Valley native, Evelyn began her career in student affairs with San Jose State Career Center, where she developed an interest and a passion for working with students and helping increase their confidence in the academic and the professional endeavors. Perfect fit. Here, after you did your presentation, you will be 100% confident about yourself. So, let's see. She earned her master's degree in education and worked with students one-on-one in career development, especially with first-generation and undeclared student populations. I would say, Evelyn, starting today, you will work with all our graduate students to find their dream jobs. That's your promise, right? Okay. One-on-one with her. Make sure. One interest info. She spent 2 years at the university as the university ombudsperson. Oh my goodness, at the San Jose State. So if you see people are arguing about the scores, come get her. She will take care of all those arguments. Thank you. Now let's welcome our graduate specialist, Caitlin Day. She will give a brief introduction to start the competition right away.
Hello, everyone. I think I've talked to a lot of you. So I'm Caitlin Day, in case you don't know me. My part up here is to tell you how the competition and rotating will work. So Jacqueline's our presenter number 1. She'll come up and she'll say her first and last name, the title on her slide, and then she'll make eye contact with Noelle. Noelle, can you raise your hand? She is our timer for tonight. So when you're ready, tell Noelle you're ready. She will give 2 different warnings so that you know it's time to stop. Well, almost time to stop with 1 minute, and then it's time to stop. And then we'll just, as Jacqueline's done, when people are clapping, we'll have Richard come up. As you guys have all seen, you've gotten a copy of the schedule. It's going to be tight, so we're going to have to just keep rolling, okay? So as they're clapping for the person ahead of you, come up and wait for them to stop clapping, and then your name, title, tell Noelle you're ready, okay? And that's it. So we'll go ahead and start.
Don't be nervous when you see 1 minute, which means you still have 33% time. You just stop when you see stop sign. Okay, if you made any mistake, don't say, sorry, I made a mistake. And nobody know you made a mistake. You just keep on going, okay?
My name is Jacqueline Godinez. I'm presenting for the Criminal Justice Department in Master's Program. The title is Studying the Mapping of the LGBTQ Equality Policies and Laws from 2010 to 2020. First, I would like to thank the Dean for having us tonight. I happen to know people in the LGBTQ community and have learned how differently they live their lives, depending on the law supporting them and the laws against them in each state. I know someone who has lived in Guam, Hawaii, California, and Texas, and he and his spouse have traveled to many different states. The laws are different in each state, and depending on where he travels with him, he has a different experience and if one state is more accepting. The study aims to determine how the laws across the United States have changed for the LGBTQ community and how much change occurred from 2010 to 2020. The design incorporates groups of people within their corresponding sexuality within a non-experimental longitudinal design that measures the state policies. The data is from a previous study called Movement Advancement Project Mapping LGBTQ Equality from 2010 to 2020. The previous research portrays improvement through different categories as the map assigns a score or point value and then sums these scores to create a policy tally for each state. I chose to concentrate on the criminal justice tally and the sexual orientation score that changed in 10 years. The criminal justice tally demonstrates how many adults are estimated across the United States that are LGBTQ and varying according to which states has fewer bans and more positive laws. Examples that contribute on why they moved to other states are like how in 2010, the gay panic was used in courts attempting to excuse violent crimes against LGBTQ people because they are to blame for their actors' violent reaction. However, in 2020, it was noted that in 8 different states, this practice was banned, enabling for members to stay in that state and become more habitable. The sexual orientation category. Other categories involving are based sexually orientated, and the rates in each state are what shows the livability and welcome. It varies from tally 1 as negative, 2 fair, low, 3 as fair, 4 as medium, and 5 as high. The tally 2 demonstrates how a state can lack non-discrimination protections, most key protective laws for LGBT, and how they have taken partial steps into policy to help improve the process for transgender people to update their IDs. Meanwhile, another state rated as 1 can be harmful, demonstrating states with a severe absence of most protective laws and a presence of at least one, if not many, harmful laws or policies, such as religious exceptions, policies targeting transgender people, and restricting their access to medical care.
My name is Richard Rubio. I'm doing a presentation on the themes of courtly love, specifically on Marie de France and Taylor Swift. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. I'll be doing a short presentation today on the themes of courtly love and how they present themselves in media. In the late 12th century, Andreas Capellanus wrote the 31 Rules of Courtly Love, aiming to codify the untamable, unpredictable force of love, a force that cares not for social hierarchy, wealth, religion, race, or marital status. These rules have served as a guide to understanding love as an entity in itself, and furthermore, have structured our love narratives for the last 900 years. In the last millennium, we have developed different social norms, romance ideals, relationship expectations, and everything in between. Even through all these changes, these rules of courtly love persist in contemporary art, whether it's film, TV, or music. To demonstrate the consistencies across time, I'll be comparing two artists from very different time periods, 12th century poet and author Marie de France, and contemporary pop icon Taylor Swift. I'm sure you're all familiar. Marie de France is best known for her famous Breton lays, short medieval love stories written in the 12th century. Marie's lays perfectly encapsulate Andreas Capellanus's Rules of Courtly Love, which he wrote about during the same time period. She writes stories like Laustic, a tale of two young lovers kept apart by a tyrannical husband. Rule number 1 of courtly love, marriage is no real excuse for not loving. My favorite of Marie de France's lays has to be Bisclevre. The lay begins with Bisclevre's wife suspecting him of an affair on account of the many nights he goes missing without explanation. He confesses not to an affair, but to being a werewolf. She's not happy about this. In fact, she falls out of love and calls upon a knight to help her steal Bisclevre's clothes, thereby preventing him from returning to human form. It's twisted, I know, but worry not, Bisclevre gets his revenge. This is my favorite of Marie's lays because of the drama. There's suspense, anticipation, betrayal, and the twist ending. For these same reasons, one of my favorite Taylor Swift pieces is No Body, No Crime featuring Haim. This song tells the story of Este, a woman who suspects her husband is being unfaithful. The chorus repeats the line, I think he did it, but I just can't prove it, in reference to his affair. Then in the final chorus, it's revealed that Este has murdered her husband, paid off the mistress, and gotten away with it too. The line changes to, they think she did it, but they just can't prove it, referring to Este murdering her husband. Both No Body, No Crime and Bisclevre share a lot of similarities, but both check off the same rules of courtly love. He who is not jealous cannot love. A new love puts an old one to flight. A slight presumption causes a lover to suspect his beloved, and nothing forbids one woman being loved by two men or one man by two women. These rules seem archaic to me, even problematic, so I ask, why do romance narratives continue to display the same archetypal structure despite the change in love standards and expectations? What sits at the foundation of love? What is it about this form of love story that keeps audiences so engaged? I leave you with these questions, and I thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Christopher Watts, and my project is veteran suicide prevention through community engagement. As I said a moment ago, my name is Christopher Watts. I am a United States Army combat veteran. When I came home from Afghanistan, I suffered from anxiety, depression, and thoughts of suicide, and I'm not alone. In my community, 30% of us came back home from Afghanistan and Iraq and have had similar problems. Because of this, I wanted to create a suicide prevention program geared specifically towards veterans, the professional community, and the family members. Within the suicide community, suicide prevention community, 30% of 20 to 30% of people are going to be reaching out to professionals, whereas 70 to 80% of people are going to be reaching out to family and friends. That's why it is so critical that we focus on the community. By doing this, I did the two different components. The first was I decided to reach out to the VA and make sure that I had an evidence-based program that I could use to have a 4-hour training in prevention. We used role play scenarios so that people could become comfortable being uncomfortable in conversations. We had a panel discussion because the majority of the programs that are out there focus on reduction of stigma, which is a critical component of it. But we also wanted to make sure that we were able to let people know that they are not alone within the community. We also had access to resources both locally and nationally so that we could have people not just come and get information, but also have resources they could call upon in their time of need. The second component was we wanted to give veterans a chance to serve again. In our community, we sign up to serve a greater purpose and to protect our friends and our families. By doing this, we are allowed to give these individuals a chance to serve again. We also give a sense of ownership over the problem, because if veterans have something that they need to overcome, we will adapt and we will make sure we take care of it. Also, within my community, we are extremely fractured. I can't get people to agree on what is better, the VA, the VFW, the American Legion, but what I can get them to agree on is that there is a problem that we need to address head on. The idea behind this program was to be able to bring everyone to the table so that they could go back into their own units and be sentinels in their own specific communities. I'm also very proud to say that everything we did was veteran focused. We had it paid for by veterans, a veteran caterer, and it was helped put on with the Stanislaus County Veteran Service Office. We're also working in July. We are going to have another one, and I'm working towards expanding it out. We're already looking at Santa Clara and some other community-based programs that we can replicate this as well. The best part about it is this can work in any community. As long as we're able to identify the stakeholders, we can adapt it to their specific needs. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kayla LaShawn, and the title of my research is Young Adults' Awareness of the Opioid Crisis and Their Use of Prescription Drugs. So I am someone whose life has been affected by the opioid crisis, and I'm willing to bet that many of your lives have been affected by it as well, whether you realize it or not. Here's some examples from my life. When I was 19 years old, I had my wisdom teeth pulled. One of my long-term friends texted me after the surgery and said, "Hey, if you got prescribed Oxy, can I buy it from you?" I didn't know what Oxy was at the time. I didn't get prescribed that anyway, so I told him, sorry, no. Here's another story. Last summer, I spent the entire summer in Mammoth with my track team. One of my teammates was having minor tooth pain, so she decided she was going to go to the hospital and get it checked out. I had been to that hospital a couple weeks before, and there were posters plastered everywhere in the hospital that said, "Need help with pain pills? Call this number." Mammoth is a place where a lot of people get injured because of the ski and bike resort, which means that it's also a place where a lot of pain pills get prescribed. So before my teammate left to go to the hospital, I said, "Hey, if you get prescribed something called OxyContin, don't accept the prescription." I told her this for 3 reasons. 1, because of the posters, I knew that they would probably try to prescribe for her. 2, I know that you don't need OxyContin for something like minor pain. And 3, that friend who had asked me for the OxyContin prescription, a year after asking me that, he died of long-term addiction to opioids. He initially became addicted to OxyContin when taking it as prescribed by a doctor. I can't assume the same thing would have happened to my teammate, but I really didn't want her to take her chances. When she came back to the condo, she told me that the first thing they tried to prescribe her was OxyContin. There are thousands of stories just like these, many much, much worse than this, about the opioid crisis and how it has affected and ruined many people's lives. The literature points out that big pharma and medical professionals have contributed to this crisis by using aggressive and deceitful marketing strategies, by overprescribing opioids, by receiving payments for prescribing opioids, and more. The literature also points out that prescription opioid misuse by the youth is a major problem in this country. What the literature doesn't explore and what I want to test is Does your knowledge level of the opioid crisis affect whether you choose to use and misuse prescription drugs? For example, my teammate back in Mammoth, she chose not to accept that prescription for Oxy. She told me that if I hadn't have explained to her why she shouldn't, she probably would have accepted the prescription. My proposed test entails administering a survey to young adults that assesses their knowledge level of the opioid crisis as well as their prescription drug use behaviors. Scores will be generated based on this survey, and I will run bivariate analysis, which will be used to examine correlations between knowledge level and prescription drug use behaviors. A benefit of this research is that the youth awareness of the opioid crisis will be increased so that their misuse of these drugs will be mitigated, and so that I hopefully don't have to tell any more stories like I just told. Thank you.
So my name is Yesenia Carvajal, and my title is Substance Use Disorder, Lived Experience During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Substance use disorder has been stigmatized for far too long. With the research that I and other graduate students have been working on with Dr. Whitehead and other professors, we plan to bring awareness to the substance use disorder and educate our community on this taboo subject. We would like to bring this crucial awareness to area legislators and policymakers in hopes that people in government become cognizant of these issues and enact positive change that will help the substance use disorder community. Our study consists of qualitative data using snowball sampling. We've interviewed 14 substance use disorder counselors in their respective fields within Central Valley and Stanislaus County. We have yet to finish analyzing our data, but we have found some common themes. Two of the common themes that we've found is that counselors would like the public to know that this field desperately needs funding and that self-care and healthy coping mechanism for counselors is paramount. All of the counselors agreed that funding was crucial. 10 agreed that we need more treatment facilities such as inpatient, outpatient facilities, detox facilities, and facilities that can help treat co-occurring disorders. 2 participants wanted funding to go into hiring, while the remaining 2 wanted the funding to go into adequate pay. When it came to coping mechanisms, the counselors agreed that having someone to talk to was essential, and even better when it was collaboration between coworkers and our supervisors, because it made difficult cases easier to deal with, especially with the increased overdose, suicides, and relapses that the counselors would see during this difficult time. Substance use counselors expressed that the main difference between post-COVID and pre-COVID was that they couldn't perform their job the same way. For example, before COVID, they had a more structural setting and they offer face-to-face interactions. And after COVID, they had to go to a virtual setting. And it was difficult because a lot of clients didn't have cell phones. Counselors also saw an increase in mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and stress. Some of the most difficult part for the counselor was not being able to provide the basic services to people that were ready to receive them. As counselors, we foster growth and facilitate change, but we also inspire hope. So next time that you guys hear hope, think of how the word healing overpower past experiences. Thank you for your time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juliana Flores, and I'll be presenting on the commercial sexual exploitation of children, a workshop for social work graduate students. Scholars suggest that nationally, as many as 2.4 million youth run away from home each year. 1 out of 3 homeless youth are lured into prostitution within 48 hours of running away from home. Statistically speaking, at least 800,000 runaway youth will be lured into commercial sexual exploitation each year, with the average being only 12 years old. So what is the commercial sexual exploitation of children, or referred to as CSEC? This is illegal sex crimes or trafficking of anybody under the age of 18 for personal gain or profit, often with an exchange of goods. So why is this important? Social workers, regardless of the social context they're working in, whether it be a school, whether it be in the county, a hospital, will at some point come across a victim of CSEC, and the consequences of a social worker not knowing how to safely intervene or pick up on the risk factors when coming across this victim can be detrimental to the victim. Thus, this project was intended to strengthen the social work students' skills to recognize, assist, and safely intervene with youth and the victims. A workshop titled The Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children, a workshop for social work graduate students, was conducted on January 18th alongside community partners Stanislaus County Justice Center and Without Permission. So this was a 2-hour workshop that highlighted an overview of CSEC, including the language used by traffickers, statistics, risk factors, trauma defined in context of human trafficking, resources in the community for the victims, and a testimonial. 40 social work students were in attendance via Zoom, including first year, second year, and third year students. Feedback forms were sent, and the feedback was overall positive. Students felt as though this workshop served its purpose, and the biggest impact was a testimonial from Without Permission survivor leader Michelle Camacho. Although I do feel like this was a really successful pilot workshop, I would like for a social work student first year to take this on and involve items that I didn't, only because I didn't know what was going to be the best way to get the crowd going. And eventually, hopefully, opening it up to the community and opening it up to all the students here at Stanislaus. And although I know that it could be very scary to think about, it is something that happens every single day. And we shouldn't have to be shying away from it just because it's uncomfortable. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rosangelica Martinez, and the topic or the title of my research is Addressing Domestic Violence in Stanislaus County, an analysis of BIP's implementation. This is of interest to me as I spent 4 years as an advocate at a Haven, which is our community nonprofit that helps victims of domestic violence. And I currently am an instructor for a batterers intervention program here in Stanislaus County. So BIP stands for Batterers Intervention Program. For those of you that don't know what that is, it is a 52-week mandated class that uses a cognitive behavioral model to try to help minimize and address domestic violence. The purpose of my research is to study the current use of this to respond to domestic violence. They have become the main response to, other than incarceration and community service, to attempt to reduce intimate partner violence across the county. However, domestic violence continues to be high in comparison to the national average, according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Considering this data, I would like to explore why BIPs continue to be the main response to combat domestic violence. Data will be collected through open-ended, unstructured ethnographic interviews of public officials such as judges, probation officers, sheriffs, law enforcement, and also instructors of these programs. Interviews will take place in a place that we agree on and will be around 30 to 90 minutes. Each with the participant will be asked about their role in implementing the program, their views, and their overall experience regarding the program. As you can see on this slide, there are a number of recent domestic violence crimes in our county, one of whom was a Stan State student who was stalked and murdered by her ex-boyfriend. And this is why my research matters. And I intend to use it to help us understand better why domestic violence is so prevalent in our community and what we are doing to prevent and respond to it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Morgan Brass. My presentation is titled A Qualitative Study of Resource Parents' Perceptions and Experiences in Collaborating with Biological Parents. Today, I want to shed light on an issue that strikes at the core of our child welfare system, the importance of reunification. The goal of our child welfare system is clear: to ensure that children can safely return home to their parents. When children spend extensive time in out-of-home care, they face a myriad of adverse outcomes, from mental health issues to academic struggles and even higher rates of homelessness and incarceration as adults. It's crucial that we explore avenues to increase successful reunification rates, as prolonged foster care involvement can exacerbate these already dire circumstances. Reunification is a complex process fraught with challenges and barriers. Termination of parental rights marks the end of the reunification journey when it's deemed not in the child's best interest due to a parent's inability or unwillingness to adhere to their case plan. Factors such as parental substance abuse, mental health issues, or lack of parenting skills further complicate the reunification process, leading to delays or even the prevention of reunification altogether. Yet studies have shown that stable social support systems significantly increase the likelihood of successful reunification. To delve deeper into this issue, my study aimed to understand how resource parents, also known as foster parents, perceive and experience their partnerships with biological parents. Through qualitative interviews, several key themes have emerged. Participants express a deep desire to facilitate growth and shape children's futures, underscoring their commitment to reunification whenever possible. However, they also face challenges, including conflicts such as biological parents lodging false accusations against them with police and CPS, as well as a lack of respect from some biological parents. Despite these challenges, participants found fulfillment in providing support and mentorship to biological parents, emphasizing the importance of emotional connection and relationship building in the reunification process. It's important to note that racial and ethnic disparities exist in reunification rates, highlighting the need for social workers to address these inequities and advocate for policies that promote reunification. Understanding resource parent and biological parent partnerships is crucial for improving reunification rates and promoting social justice within our child welfare system. By increasing our knowledge on this topic, we can begin to move towards establishing policies that better serve families and increase the chances of successful reunification, ultimately fulfilling the mission of the social work profession. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Najwa Chawati, and I'm going to be looking at the benefits of athletic involvement. Today, I'm going to be talking about the influence of sports participation on individuals' health risk behavior. Growing up, I was always told that the benefit of athletic involvement was really important. My mother believed that athletic involvement was essential among young adults, especially high school through college. She believed that in order to stay away from bad influence as substance use, unprotected sexual activity, and having health risk behaviors, parents should keep their children engaged in an activity with a positive outcome as sports. I'm using pre-existing data from 2006 by the Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, where they surveyed 795 undergrad students, 410 were male and 378 were female. The purpose of this research is to investigate the correlation between athletic involvement and risk behavior, comparing experiences between high school and college. During high school, 60% of participants engaged in regular exercise 3 to 5 times a week, whereas in college, this percentage drops to 38%, making a 22% decline during the transition period. This decrease in athletic involvement consisted of an increase of 19.9% on risk behaviors, with the highest percentage being associated with riding a car without a seatbelt, engaging in unprotected sex, and participating in dangerous dares. While there appears to be a correlation between the decrease of athletic involvement and the increase in risk behavior, it's crucial to acknowledge other influencing factors that might contribute to these outcomes, which I will be exploring further on my research. Nevertheless, my purpose is to spread awareness among parents to involve their children on athletics at a young age, not only for having a healthy lifestyle, but also to teach them discipline, patience, commitment, compassion, leadership, sacrifice, and most importantly, teamwork. These attributes are not only conducive to reducing the thoughts of health risk behavior, but also beneficial for enhancing the personal and professional aspects of our life. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Haid Torres, and my project is titled Comparative Genomics of Songbirds with Differential Susceptibility to Salmonella. In the year 2020, a mysterious illness seemed to be creeping across the western coast of the United States. People had begun presenting to the hospital with what was later identified as a salmonella infection. At first, the origin of this epidemic was a mystery. However, an investigation by the Center for Disease Control identified the culprits behind this epidemic, and those culprits are pictured right here. The first question that comes to mind is, how could these cute little guys cause such a great mess among human populations? Well, the answer lies in bird feeders. All of the people who had contracted salmonella had indirectly interacted with these birds through their garden bird feeders. In addition to demonstrating that birds are an important factor in human public health, this epidemic also demonstrated that not all birds are equally culpable for these epidemics. The bird that kept coming up during the CDC investigation is the pine siskin, which is the brown-colored bird here on the panel. This comes as a surprise. The other three birds listed, the house finch, the lesser goldfinch, and the American goldfinch, are all very closely related to this bird on the evolutionary tree of life, as you can see up here. Not only that, these birds frequently interact with each other in nature, where there is ample opportunity for them to spread infection. So the question is, why does this not happen? Why do some birds become ill while other closely related members of their family do not? This is the question my thesis aims to answer. The approach I am using is known as comparative genomics. With this approach, I am determining the sequence of letters in the code of life, specifically the DNA of these birds. The region I am focusing on is known as the MHC region, which has been identified as an essential part of fighting off infection in animals. My hypothesis is that the pine siskin becomes ill so often because they have a reduced MHC region, while the other birds have an expanded one. I have already had some success with my project. I have been able to sequence the entire genome, that is the DNA, of the American goldfinch. I have also been able to identify the MHC region, which you can see on that side of the slide, in this bird, which has never before been done. My project has the potential to impact public health by identifying other birds that may pose a threat to human populations. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nick Vargas, and my project is comparing the mental health of inmates in solitary and psychiatric prison settings, a longitudinal analysis. So when my dad worked at Dual Vocational Institution in Tracy, California, he would always tell me stories of the security housing unit in the prison and how when inmates were to go in, it would be a matter of months to weeks before they started to decline mentally. And he would say that a good chunk of these inmates actually turn to self-harm to stay grounded to reality in their own words. So my present study aims to analyze a previous study conducted in the Colorado Department of Corrections 2010. More specifically, it aims to analyze data that was collected using the brief psychiatric or the brief psychiatric rating scale, which is a 24-question assessment that assesses various psychological symptoms of people. So as it stands right now, I had 49 inmates that were in solitary confinement who had mental illness, and 55 inmates from San Carlos Correctional Facility, which is a psychiatric prison in Colorado. And the goal of my study was to see if inmates in a solitary setting continuously decline mentally over a 1-year period, and if inmates in a psychiatric setting improve over that same time period. So as far as results go, if you take a look at anxiety and depression in the solitary inmates, there's a pattern where in between the first test interval and the third test interval, these inmates do tend to get worse with anxiety and depression symptoms. However, in between the third interval and the fifth interval, they seem to slightly improve. And the only outlier in this case is hostility, in which these inmates in solitary do get better with every test interval. And on the other hand, when it comes to San Carlos inmates, it's interesting to see too. So when we take a look at anxiety and depression, anxiety and hostility, there's a period where they do get better in between the first test interval and the third test interval. However, in the fifth test interval, they do seem to get worse with their anxiety and their hostility. Again, and the only outlier here is depression, in which they continuously improve over each test interval. Overall, the goal of my study is to shed a spotlight on mental health, because at the end of the day, a lot of these inmates are going to be released back into society. And if we make it an effort to focus on their mental health and get them to an acceptable state, it will be of great benefit to the correctional system and to society as a whole. Thank you.
I'm Jacob Mora. My project is the medication-assisted treatment for social workers, developing the foundation of our manuscript. As of today, there's over 46 million Americans living with a substance use disorder. And since year 2000, over 1 million Americans have lost their life to a drug overdose. By the time this presentation is over, within 5 minutes, there will be 1 individual in America dead from a drug overdose. In 5 minutes, there'll be 12 individuals. By the end of this hour, 288 individuals dead. By the end of the year, over 100,000 will be dead in America, primarily due to fentanyl. For those who are brave enough to enter into the recovery process, it doesn't get much easier. They'll experience psychologically and physiological painful withdrawal syndromes. This is where medication-assisted treatment and social workers come into play. Medication-assisted treatment is the technical term for medication used to treat addictions. These might include things like Suboxone, Antabuse, Dalciolifram. However, despite having these medications, only 20% of Americans have access to them and actually use them. Yet the National Association of Social Workers requires that social workers provide our clients with access to equitable resources. This is a pretty tall order if you don't know what medication-assisted treatment is. The goal of this project is to provide that education, awareness, and knowledge for social workers so that we can improve the relapse rates and the death rates in this country. So the goal of this project is to create a 6-chapter book. First one is teaching social workers, what on earth do we do with medication-assisted treatment? The other 4 chapters cover alcohol, opioid, cannabis, and tobacco use disorder, and the medications used to treat these. The implication of this project is threefold. The first is to increase medication-assisted treatment utilization through social workers providing linkage and service. Secondly, is that the goal is to reduce relapse rates, to reduce death rates, reduce death rates in this country. Threefold is that we are going to try to make it so that it is easier for people to have access to a life-saving resource. Thank you. The end.
Good evening. My name is Heather Ann, and I am a graduate in the English department. And my presentation is titled Cultivating Cognition with Reading in FYC. My research aims to explore various forms of reading pedagogy that could assist students within first-year composition to develop their reading experience so as to mature and improve students' writing across multiple forms of discipline. Following Michael Bunn's methodology from motivation and connection, teaching reading and writing in the composition classroom from his research project in 2013, this research aims to explore current scholarship on the topic, collect surveys and interviews from faculty and instructors, and eventually lead into a qualitative study on students' experience using various reading practices in support of their comprehension and writing. The goal for my research is to investigate and mature our current reading pedagogies at CSU Stanislaus and seek to cultivate areas of improvement so as to ensure that students are being provided the best opportunity to succeed in their academic journey. Since this presentation is limited to 3 minutes, though, I will only give you guys my preliminary findings as listed upon my slide. The first is that all students who attend college, no matter what they aim to major in or whether or not they are proficient in reading and writing, they will at one point or another attend a composition course. This is why, and what this means is the English composition class has the privilege to help all students, but especially freshmen, to transition from the academic level of their primary education and develop a foundation for their academic journey. My second reason is to clarify that reading comprehension is more than simply decoding the words upon a page. It is, as my title highlights, a cognitive process. An example of what I'm referring to can be taken from Brian Jackson's chapter, Teaching Reading, when he reflects upon his first teaching mistake that many instructors experience within a composition course. He reflects that he instructs his students to, quote, just read it. And by his next class period with those students, he realized that he had expected his students to know what to just read meant, that they should be engaged with the writing via annotation, they should have identified the argument or the purpose, discovered any outcomes, and develop an opinion upon what they have read. For many in this room, I would assume this is a natural process for us, but it is a process we either had to discover for ourselves through painful measures, or mercifully, it was one that we were explicitly taught. Lastly, with my final point, I would argue that based upon my research, that if we took the time within our composition course to ensure we were explicitly teaching reading, meaning teaching students various reading strategies, walking them through our own reading processes, and demonstrating various interpretations of the text we assign them, and showing them how this is a skill that will aid them in their future courses, then students will have a better chance in succeeding with their future disciplinary reading and writing assignments. In concluding my time tonight, I do want to acknowledge that this project is by no means concluded or complete, and even in my final report, when it's drafted, I do not feel like it will ever reach a stoppable conclusion. My reason for this is due to the credit of Ellen Carrillo and her research, and the fact that reading comprehension needs to always be seeking to find best practices to help students succeed in our classes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karina Garcia Aguilar, a Master of Social Work student, and the title of my project is Teen Pregnancy in Rural Ghana, Promoting Sexual and Reproductive Health Education. Last year, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Ghana, West Africa, and I visited Amaquacrom, a remote island in eastern Ghana that takes 4 hours by car and a 2-hour ferry to get to. On the island, teen pregnancy is impacting girls' health, education, employment opportunities, and other aspects of their life. The Holy Rosary Clinic on Amaquacrom is currently expanding its maternity ward to keep up with the deliveries. Now imagine living on Amaquacrom and being a young pregnant teenager with only 2 options to deliver your baby: at home without medical personnel or medications, or at a local community clinic with very antiquated machinery. Not the most ideal options, right? At the invitation of Chief Otukwa Pareco VI, I was invited to address teen pregnancy. He reports that in 2022, there were 829 pregnant women on the island, and out of the 88 females that delivered their babies on this island, the youngest was a 9-year-old. Yes, I said 9 years old. Teen pregnancy is a priority on Amaquacrom, given that the teen birth rate is 14% much higher than some Western countries. Ghana is a religious country where family is highly valued, and although young girls and boys abide by their religious teachings, most are still having sex despite their values and beliefs. This issue of teen pregnancy is so important to me, and it's the reason why I have decided to return to Ghana this year to complete my culminating graduate project on promoting sexual and reproductive health. I have delivered 2 virtual workshops and will implement the same workshops in person to students, school teachers, health personnel, and other community members on Amacuacrom. The focus of my workshops include female and male anatomy, comprehension of safe sex practices, and methods of contraception, just to mention a few. The theoretical framework that I use when developing my curriculum is tied to an African philosophy known as Ubuntu, which in education implies there should be no tension between culture and identity for students in the classroom as the world becomes a more global village, and that equitable and quality education and learning should be for all. One of the National Association of Social Work core values is service, and my direct action addresses a real and legitimate global social problem. I am implementing my educational initiative to empower young people to make appropriate and informed sexual and reproductive decisions that impact their life trajectories and to reduce teen pregnancy on Amacuacrom. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carmen Carrubias, and I'm doing my presentation, Cyberbullying. My little brother was a victim of bullying. He was taunted, humiliated, and physically assaulted on school grounds. He feared for his life. And due to this incident, he had to transfer schools. This experience drives my interest in the new bullying platform, cyberbullying. The purpose of this study is to explore adolescent cyberbullying experience. I used the CDC YRBS to conduct the study. The CDC YRBS is a cluster sample of 152 public and private schools across the nation. My design is a longitudinal study. Data was retrieved by CDC YRBS from the year 2021, and the variables that I decided to work with are sex, age, and electronic bullying. Now, to clarify, electronic bullying is cyberbullying. The CDC and YRBS have it labeled as electronic bullying on the data set, so for the sake of this presentation, we'll proceed further to label it as electronic bullying. So electronic bullying was measured by how many participants experienced electronic bullying in the past 12 months. Age was measured by participants' age, and the sex was measured by participants' sex, whether they identify as a male or a female. So for sex, about 8,800 participants identify as a male, and 8,152 participants identify as a female. For age, the age group I decided to work with are 14-year-olds to 18-year-olds, and each bar basically represents the number of participants per age group. And for electronic bullying, as you can see, the majority has stated they have not experienced any form of electronic bullying, but as you can see, 2,712 participants have. And so with that being said, I decided to conduct a bivariate analysis. I wanted to know what sex and what age group have experienced electronic bullying. And in result, females are the ones that were more prone to experience electronic bullying. And the younger respondents were more likely to report electronic bullying, which are the 14, 15, and 16-year-olds. And as I get close to conclude my presentation, the ultimate goal of this presentation is to raise awareness amongst youth about electronic bullying. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn Garcia, and I am a Master of Social Work student. Each year, social work agencies give social workers the opportunity to carry out their professional mission through their own set of core values, requirements, and ethical expectations. However, the amount of documentation, the severity of client issues, the size of the caseloads, and the degree of oversight have all increased and can be described as raising the obstacles to efficient practice according to the Center for Health and Workforce Studies. Social workers are expected to meet standards of care that will improve service outcomes, but unfortunately, their well-being is being negatively impacted by the professional demands. Phenomenons like secondary traumatic stress, burnout, compassion fatigue, mental health disease, and sometimes even substance abuse have become a manifestation of the outcomes of unhealthy work environments that come with the profession and result in high turnover rates. A mindfulness-based intervention intended to reduce stress and enhance feelings of well-being and boost participants' psychological and emotional health was developed by CSU Stanislaus faculty and offered to clinicians and other personnel at Behavior and Health Recovery Services in Merced County. Informed by literature on mindfulness, compassion, positive psychology, gratitude, and adult resilience, this mindfulness-based intervention served as the independent variable in an exploratory research study aimed to gather data on the efficacy of the intervention. Using quantitative pretest post-test assessments with 7 standardized instruments serving as a dependent variable designed to measure change on different areas, 21 participants ranging from 20 to 58-year-olds were provided with weekly intervention workshops over an 8-week period for 90 minutes a day. It was initially hypothesized that effectiveness of mindfulness intervention would be evident through decreased symptoms of stress and improved feelings of well-being. Results showed that after participating in the study, 6 out of the 7 scales had positive post-test change, and participants were better at regulating their emotions, experiencing more mindfulness in their day-to-day, improved their life satisfaction, decreased levels of secondary post-traumatic stress symptoms were also evident, and participants were engaging in more self-compassion. It showed the most significant change was showed in the way that participants cope after the 8-week workshop. The only one that did not produce any change was cognitive flexibility, measuring resilience, and therefore participants still struggle with the tendency to perceive difficult situations as controllable. These findings show overall efficacy of the intervention and how, if offered to more employees in social service agencies, it can be expected to have significant impact in the field of social work, resulting in better positive changes for the worker and improved delivery services for the clients. Thank you.
My name is Eduardo Zamora, and my study is on domestic violence, examining recidivism rates between formal and informal probation cases. Since I was a little boy, domestic violence has always been present in my home, whether it was my sister or whether it was my dad. The reason the picture is up there is my mom is the victim. She's the drive and the purpose for this study. I am currently working at the Stanislaus County Probation Department. And before I started all that, like I said, I was subject to domestic violence. I ended up applying to the probation department and went through the FTO program, which is the field training program. Ironically, I got placed to supervise domestic violence offenders. I feel like it's my calling to study domestic violence. So first of all, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is the physical, emotional, or verbal abuse of a cohabitant or spouse. The perceptions of domestic violence is that the victim is always at fault, or the victim may have caused it, and that's the reason why the perpetrator acted the way that they did. It wasn't the case with my mom. Unfortunately, these crimes are punishable. If a misdemeanor, 16 months in jail. If a felony, it's 2 years in prison, 3 years, or 4 years. However, they never get sent to prison. The option is always probation, which is why it's the reason for my study. The difference between formal and informal cases are that formal are felonies and are supervised by a probation officer, while informal cases are misdemeanors. My study will consist of a non-experimental longitudinal design, which will allow me to track defendants' progress for a period of time. In my case, from 2019 to 2022. By doing this, I will also include a census, which will include all defendants who are charged with the domestic violence charge and are given DV terms. What that means is that they are required to do a 52-week battered treatment program. The benefit of my study is that we have specialty courts, and that's where most of the study has been conducted, in misdemeanors. However, felonies are supervisable, which are harder to keep track of. The benefit of this will give people an insight on whether specialty courts actually work, and if supervision is an issue that needs to be addressed. Hopefully, people become more informed and realize that domestic violence has been rising, especially since COVID-19. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mona Lisa Picaro, and the title of my project is Empowering Communities for Poverty Reduction in Eastern Ghana Through Programs for Progress. Social justice and equity are at the heart of social work. Last year, I traveled to Ghana with an international social work class. Instead of just researching poverty, I aimed to make a real impact. I met the chief of Kwahu Asabi Amankwa Chrome, an indigenous Akan tribe leader who governs over 120,000 people. He asked me, what made you want to become a social worker? Before Ghana, it was about my career. After Ghana, being a social worker meant wanting to help communities like Amankwa Chrome overcome social injustice. The chief challenged me to create a program for the elderly as there was no support for this vulnerable population. I collaborated with local community members, social work professionals, and students from the University of Ghana and Savannah State University to develop 5 programs. Social Circles and the Healthy Aging Program promote socialization, community engagement, physical health, and mental well-being. Senior Support Services pair volunteers with elderly members to assist with household chores and transportation. The Tiny Readers Academy enhances children's literacy, and the Grandparent Guardian Program provides daycare-like support, enabling teenage mothers to attend school. While these programs may resemble those that are in our country, they are customized for Amankwa Chrome, emphasizing cultural sensitivity and adaptation to meet the community's needs and decolonize program development. The project also aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as Global Goals, which was established in 2015 to end poverty and ensure prosperity for all by 2030. For me, this journey embodies Sankofa, a Twi word from Ghana meaning to retrieve, to go back and get. Sankofa is symbolized by a bird with its head turned backward, carrying an egg in its mouth, like the logo on the top left. We created this logo for a future nonprofit that we plan to continue for our project. This experience closed the loop in my life as I realized I was like one of those kids in Ghana, playing with makeshift toys and living in extreme poverty in the Philippines. Now I can make a difference pursuing social justice and aiding in action towards the global goals. This is the essence of Sankofa and of being a social worker. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Riojas. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I'm also in the EDD program here. So I'm going to be talking about social communication. And so social communication is basically those nonverbal and verbal things we do to interact. And those are important for us to form relationships and to have those interaction skills in conversation. And so right now with students with autism, how they're being taught these social communication skills are through the behavioral theory methods, which is rooted in like applied behavior analysis. So for example, if you're telling a student, you know, say hi, you say hi, and you show them a wave. And if they do that, you give them like a popcorn or a M&M. And so it doesn't have to be enacted into that same setting or a meaningful activity. There's new research that shows that there's different methods to use, which is using a more naturalistic setting with toys and through play, because as we've seen in the literature, people with autism are contextual learners. They learn through meaningful experiences, through things they like, their strength and interest, and that's when you see all these things happen. And so we've also seen our research when social communication is not addressed, this leads to a lot of depression, it leads to that marginalization, those inequity gaps that we see, and ultimately a whole bunch of other mental health things and low independence in the public atmosphere. So using these new research practices will definitely help shape that social communication and enhance equity for students with autism. Right now, they're being used in private institutions such as like UCLA and big institutions like that, and also those private clinics. So there's a huge research gap. And these are not being served in the public school settings. The students I see, the students we have, the students we know, and this should really be addressed because we want to enhance our community and we want to make sure that all our students are served.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana Gonzalez, and my project is called Forming a Path for Equality, Hispanic and Latino Population and Developmental Delays. This graduate project aimed to engage and inform Hispanic and Latino parents about early signs for developmental delays within children. For this graduate project, a workshop was designed with 3 objectives in mind. 1, to inform parents about children's developmental milestones and developmental delays, and 2, to demonstrate activities that will target specific developmental domains to promote growth development. And 3, to assist parents in locating services and educational options in their local area. These objectives were targeted to address the disparities that access to information with the Hispanic and Latino population. The lack of access to information in Spanish and in a manner that's culturally engaging contributes to disparities in a delay in diagnosis and a delay in services. With a delay in diagnosis and a delay in services, children face the possibility of long-term growth delays in their developmental domains. In this project, participants and their children were able to attend the informational and hands-on workshop. The information was presented in both English and in Spanish, as well as all materials and handouts. The first portion of the workshop was an informative session to inform parents on what developmental delays are, how to identify them, and the next steps to follow. The second half of the workshop consisted of developmental domain targeted play sessions. An infant development specialist facilitated these play sessions while demonstrating how to promote growth through these specific domains through play. Parents were able to ask specific questions that they had about their child and their growth development, and each participant received a curriculum bag that included a book in Spanish and other developmental toys specific to their age range. This graduate project aimed to culturally address disparities with Hispanic and Latino population to help build a path for equality in the areas of developmental delays. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nayeli Vaca Sotelo. I teach criminal justice and police procedures, and the title of my presentation is From Classroom to Punishment, Experiencing the Disciplinary Actions in Schools. My journey with this research began with a question. How do the disciplinary actions we face in our formative years shape our future interactions with authority? As a high school teacher, I've witnessed how school discipline policies can impact students' lives. And through these experiences sparked my curiosity and led me to delve deeper into understanding the dynamics at play. Existing scholarship argues that early negative interactions with punishment and discipline in schools, as well as early negative interactions with police and the criminal justice system in schools, will lead to an increased probability of a negative interaction later on with police and the criminal justice system. My research will be looking at 3 school districts in the Valley: Turlock Unified, Ceres Unified, and Modesto City Schools. The data that you see before you is from the California dashboard, and it's raw numbers that are reflecting students who were suspended for at least 1 day in these school districts in the 2022-2023 school year. They're divided into groups. So if you look at, for example, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, you can see the high numbers compared to the other groups on the board. The purpose of my research is to unravel the relationships between school discipline policies and the subsequent interactions with the criminal justice system. One of the essential questions that I will be asking is, how are students disproportionately impacted by these school policies, which include zero tolerance policies, the presence of school resource officers, and the lack of policies that are alternative to suspension? My research method will be conducting 30 to 90-minute ethnographic interviews of about 100 former high school students currently enrolled in Stanislaus, CSU Stanislaus and Modesto Junior College. By capturing the experiences of students from different socioeconomic backgrounds and in different educational settings, I hope to ensure a more comprehensive understanding of this issue. And as eager as I am as excited as I am to embark on this journey, it's not without remembering that behind every statistic and behind every research finding, there's a real story, a real challenge, and real aspirations. The impact that this can have on our community is reform for our current school disciplinary policies, and I hope that I can help bridge the gap between the classroom and the wider world by paving the way for a more equitable and just future for our students. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandra Gonzalez, and the title of my research is From Risk to Resistance, Safeguarding Social Workers in Their Workplace. My graduate project started over a year ago while I was conducting a home visit, and a gentleman pulled out a gun on me. And me being young and green, I stayed longer than I probably should have. Going through that experience, I decided to create a workshop for my fellow MSW students. And some of the statistics about our workplace, when you think of first responders, who do you think of? Firefighters, policemen, well, we're up there as well. We're ranked number 15th out of 20. And some other statistics are that 1 in 7 of us will experience verbal abuse. I did so that day, and 1 in 5 will experience physical violence. Not to get all doom and gloom, but those are just the realities of our profession. So in order to do my small part, like I said, I decided to do a workshop. I brought in different members of our community, such as police officers, student nurses, and I also gathered some knowledge from more mature social workers to give us the tips and tricks of the trade. The workshop went pretty well. We did some basic first aid techniques. We went over some self-defense strategies. And then, like I said, some tricks of the trade. Let's see. Overall, I just hope that I was able to help out my fellow peers, and hopefully we won't become one of those statistics. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eliana Dero Silva, and the title of my research is called Silence Voices, Unveiling the Realities of Sex Work, a Cross-Cultured Examination. I visited Amsterdam a couple years ago, and I recall walking by the red light district zone and seeing sex workers there. While I felt that they were being objectified, I also felt that they had a level of legality and protection that is not given to sex workers in our community. Here, not only are they objectified and vilified, but they often suffer the brunt of the criminal justice system by being fined, arrested, and often ignored. My research focuses on the criminalization of sex workers and how that is experienced by sex workers in the Central Valley. I will conduct ethnographic face-to-face interviews with sex workers in the Central Valley to understand how criminalization makes them more prone to violence and how it affects their day-to-day lives. I will compare this with sex workers in Uruguay, where I will interview them via Zoom. This comparison can shed light on the differences between being a sex worker in a criminalized context with a place such as Uruguay, where it's legal and regulated. In my job as a deputy coroner for the Merced County Sheriff's Department, there has been encounters of sex workers dying. Often the fact that they were sex workers contributed to their death. Exploring how criminalization increases sex workers to be more prone to violence becomes a paramount of importance. Particularly in semi-rural areas such as the Central Valley, since much of the research has been done in urban areas. Understanding the complex process that led to becoming a sex worker and how they navigate the violence they often suffer at the hands of the community and the state is central. Therefore, developing an ethnographic approach to the topic is fundamental to understand it. While sex workers have been criminalized in the United States, we cannot dehumanize them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Juliana. I am part of the Masters of Social Work. My title is Intervention for Student Athletes. Student athletes, a very common word on school campus. So who are they?
A student athlete is expected to represent their team and their university in a professional manner, physically train, and attend practice for an average of 20 hours per week while attending class, completing homework, and studying for exams. I had the privilege of partnering with CAPS, the Counseling and Psychological Services here on campus, as one of their 2 student researchers to help them explore the effects of their interventions that they called Pro Warrior Workshop Series that was offered during this academic year. These workshops were designed to help navigate students being athletes and to promote wellness. Because this intervention is new, the purpose of the study is to explore the experiences of student athletes who participated in the workshops. We want to know, what are they learning? What is sticking out to them? Are these workshops even helpful? But most importantly, we want to know if these workshops can improve the well-being of student athletes. From the 4 workshops created, I was able to retrieve data from 3 of them, with a total of 11 participants. For the first workshop, focused on rest and recovery. No participants were recruited because there was no attendees. And that's okay, because what that showed us was that we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out ways to attract these students to attend our workshops. As a result, we worked alongside the athletic director for student success, who eventually became, in my opinion, the key element in recruiting athletes to attend the remaining of our workshops. Workshop number 2 focused on healthy mind, healthy body. Around 50 students showed up this time. Out of those 50 students, I was able to recruit 6 of them to do a qualitative interview, asking them in-depth questions about their experiences in the workshops. The common themes reported by these 6 participants were knowing how to identify their stressors, learning about eating disorders, and locating services on and off campus. Workshop number 3 was just as successful. This time, I recruited 5 participants. The workshop focused on healthy relationships. Participants reported being able to identify healthy and abusive relationships, but not only in romantic partners, but also in relationship with their coaches and their teammates. The data collected will be passed on to the Counseling and Psychological Services to use when moving forward for planning the future of the Pro Warrior Workshop Series. The data will also be used by the athletic department to help apply for NCAA grants for their department to fund for more interventions that can help the overall well-being of their student athletes. Thank you.
My name's Aster Ashe, and the title of my research is Mindfulness Intervention for Social Workers. Did you know that over 70% of social workers experience compassion fatigue? The term compassion fatigue refers to emotional and physical exhaustion from indirect exposure to distress and tragedy. Social workers have one of the highest rates of work-related stress. They work hard to assist people who are experiencing homelessness, poverty, abuse, mental illness, chronic illness, and physical and mental abuse. Hearing clients' tragedies can exhaust social workers, resulting in compassion fatigue, which reduces job satisfaction, empathy, and job performance. So, whose job is it to assist social workers in dealing with the stress of everyone else's stress? It should be a collaborative effort between social workers and the agencies that employ them. My research study is beneficial for addressing this phenomenon. I conducted a study on social workers who received evidence-based stress management intervention. Participants attended the intervention program for 8 weeks, once a week, for 90 minutes, and they were taught various stress management techniques. Key findings were that the social workers found the program's mindfulness practice exercises improved their stress management following the intervention. The intervention made participants more aware of their emotions, helped them realize when they are emotionally overwhelmed or triggered by their client's experience, and it gave them the means to control their emotions. For example, one participant stated, When I am overwhelmed, I feel stiffness in my neck, arms, stomach, which tells me that it's time for me to take a pause and ground myself. Another one stated, I like to do breathing exercises in between client sessions. Another participant stated, after work, I take 10 minutes to reflect on my workday to separate my professional and personal life. So to conclude, employers must teach social workers work-related stress coping techniques, and social workers must apply the techniques as needed. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dana Alarache. I'm part of the Criminal Justice Graduate Program, and the topic of my research is hate crimes, and more specifically, motivation and severity of hate crimes in California. I live in a home of immigrants from the Middle East and Mexico, and seeing how the media and society depict people from those regions is disheartening. I've seen firsthand how negative stereotypes and perceptions can impact immigrant communities. The motivation and severity of hate crimes in California. The data is coming from the Uniform Crime Report, hate crime data from 2020. This was a nationwide study, but I limited it to California, which makes up my sample size. So this had about 1,339 cases. The variables in the analysis that I used include bias motivation, offense, and victims. Bias motivation conveys why the crime was committed. The offense demonstrates what type of crime was committed, and number of victims just states how many victims per offense. The most prevalent bias type was anti-Black, followed by anti-gay, specifically towards males, followed by anti-Hispanic, Latino, two of the three which involve race and ethnicity. About 65% of the hate crimes in California were carried out due to race and ethnicity, which conveys the prevalence of minority populations being targeted. The most common type of crime was destruction and vandalism at 28%, followed by simple assault and intimidation. The findings demonstrate the various crimes committed ranging from property damage to physical violence. Results were random, and the number of victims is visibly unrelated to motivation or offense, but improving the awareness of hate crimes prompts policies to address measures needed to prevent and intervene in criminal offenses targeted at marginalized communities. Addressing the importance of combating hate crimes will promote social inclusivity and cohesion among all communities. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deja Marie, and Project CARE, the Art of Storytelling, was my culminating graduate project. This project was executed in partnership with 501c3 nonprofit An Insightful Journey, which was founded by myself in 2021. This organization is driving equity in our geographic location through creative initiatives that foster the organization's values, collaborate, advocate, resource, research, and educate, using the art of storytelling to create community. The graduate project focused on 3 critical target concepts: a disconnected world, social justice issues, and inequitable healthcare. The significance of this project was rooted in a grassroots, bottom-up approach that fostered empowerment theory and honors anti-oppressive practice. Research shows that storytelling is the new social learning model. The maps we are looking at are evidence-based target regions from the California Healthy Places Index. The key you see at the bottom left corner illustrates the lower percentile being less healthy community conditions and the higher percentile being more healthy community conditions. The maps and percentiles represent the healthcare indicators for the cities listed above. Specifically, the target areas for Modesto, which we're focused on in this project: airport area, 95351, with a healthcare indicator of 26.9%. Downtown area, 95354, healthcare indicator 39.1%.
West Side area, 95358, healthcare indicator, 27.3%, which are significantly lower than the percentiles of the communities surrounding them, which is pictured to the left. The storytellers pictured in the center here have shared their stories. They all come from these zip codes, and they have shared their experience with inequitable healthcare at the intersection of social injustice and a disconnected world. The stories they have shared have generated a starting point for solutions. The communities need health reimagined, specifically empathy, reform, more spaces for healthcare, as well as community creatives such as gardens, insurance accessibility, and education, specifically around health literacy. In addition, this project has established a community committee in Stanislaus County, subsequently named Project CARE, inspired by this project and its title, Project CARE, The Art of Storytelling. The committee will continue to address these 3 target concepts in this project with the goal of advancing 2 policy actions. The first, whole person care strategies, and the second, advancing equity in programs and policies. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angelique Lopez. I represent the Counseling Education Department, and my study is titled Substance Use Disorder Counselors' Lived Experience During the COVID-19 Pandemic. So I have been working with my faculty, Dr. Suzanne Whitehead, as well as with other classmates on this study. So the purpose of our study is actually to investigate the lived experiences of substance use disorder counselors, to discuss the reduction of services during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as to inform policymakers and the public on the limited access of treatment that clients are still experiencing post-pandemic. So our study consists of qualitative data from 14 substance use disorder counselors within the Central Valley. We did interviews over Zoom that were done between 2022 to 2023. So we're not done with our study, but through our current thematic analysis, right now we've noticed that there's an increase in fear and social isolation from both counselors and their clients, as well as an increase in mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and stress. We also noticed that this was due to COVID restrictions and fear of getting sick. So what is more is that there was a decrease in social interaction and participation because everything moved over to Zoom. Some clients didn't have access to phones, they didn't have access to internet or Wi-Fi. So that led to the minimizing of client capacity, which led to less collaboration across services, including less meds being filled and no urinary analysis being done. So the thematic analysis of decrease continues with less client recovery and less retention. That led to an increase in alcohol and drug dependency, overdose, and relapse. Participant 1 actually told us overdose deaths have increased exponentially. He heard of overdose deaths have increased exponentially, doubling and tripling. I've heard of former clients of mine who have overdosed and died. It's difficult because despite your best efforts, somebody was a victim of this disease and it wound up being their end. Furthermore, when we asked participants what they wanted the public and policymakers to know regarding what was needed to effectively treat these clients, they all agreed on more funding for adequate pay, more staff, and specifically 71.8% said funding for facilities. These facilities included facilities to treat co-occurring disorders, which is a dual diagnosis of a mental health disorder and a substance use disorder. More detox centers for patients to go detox and receive services, as well as inpatient and outpatient services. So although we're not done with our current thematic analysis, we do hope that the outcome and the value of our study will educate the public and policymakers on what is needed to effectively treat these clients, as well as to decrease stigma and to advocate for these clients who are suffering from this disease. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Arely Padron Sanchez. I am a Master of Social Work candidate and a research scholar. My culminating project is titled Project Flow, Achieving Global Menstrual Equity. I want to start off by asking this, if I can have a show of hands of who in the room has access to clean water. Please keep your hand up if you have missed school or work due to not having access to clean water to manage your menstrual cycle or access to menstrual supplies. Wow, what a privilege it is for many of us to have access to clean water, a basic need. If I were to be asking this question in Ghana, the answer would look very different and the room would also look very different right now. My research was born after I visited Ghana, Africa as part of my study abroad class. A team of MSW students and healthcare professionals consisting of a doctor, a nurse, a midwife, traveled to the island of Amankwa Chrome on a healthcare collaborative. As part of this journey, I fundraised over $4,000. I also started multiple period drives here on campus and in the community with the mission of gathering and purchasing sanitary napkins, tampons, and menstrual cups. We bought over 1,500 menstrual items to support period poverty. After visiting Ghana, my team and I realized our efforts were only a very tiny part of what needed to be done. So we launched ACT Global Initiative, an initiative to address global poverty. Follow us on Insta. Globally, over 23 million girls miss school or drop out because they lack the financial means to afford menstrual supplies, lack adequate facilities for managing menstruation, or face taboos and stigma related to their menstrual cycle. My project addresses the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals of no poverty, gender equality, and clean water and sanitation. I have launched a GoFundMe campaign in hopes of raising $20,000. And I have developed a curriculum using evidence-based tools and articles. I will travel to Ghana in May and launch Project Flow. In many parts of the world, period poverty remains hidden, stigmatized, and ignored. I designed Project Flow's curriculum and I will implement in Ghana. The curriculum is instructed to enhance the well-being and dignity of women and girls on the remote island of Amankwa Chrome. Improve healthcare outcomes of women and girls, increase educational opportunities, and advance knowledge of sustainable development and environment-friendly menstrual supplies. Medasi, this means thank you in Ghana, and thank you to all menstruating individuals who have inspired this project for me.
Hi, everybody. My name is Niati Hernandez. I'm currently a graduate student pursuing my degree in history. And today I will be talking about the factors of genocide in third world countries. So genocide, a crime committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group in whole or in part. The first genocide I ever learned about was the Holocaust around middle school. And I vividly remember the images of malnourished corpses and learning about gas chambers that were created for the sole purpose of murdering people. All I could think about is, how did this even happen? How could the world let millions of people be brutally murdered? And why didn't anybody stop this? But the Holocaust is not the only genocide that has happened in this world. Despite the fact that the United Nations created the UN Genocide Convention in 1948 that literally made genocide an international crime, genocide still continues to occur. Indonesia, Cambodia, and Rwanda are third world countries where genocides took place after the UN Genocide Convention happened. Colonization, financial funding, and international motives were three common factors that influenced these genocides to occur. Starting with colonization. Indonesia was colonized by the Netherlands until 1949, Cambodia by France until 1953, and Rwanda by Belgium until 1962. When these first world countries left these third world countries behind, they left them with destabilized governments, its people divided, and chaos and violence that was bound to happen. Moving on to financial funding. The UN and countries knew about these genocides happening, but were afraid of even saying the word genocide ever since the Holocaust happened. And a country that accused another country of genocide would be would have the responsibility of funding the prosecution against a government or country that was committing this crime. So it discouraged a lot of countries of actually calling out genocides that were happening because they didn't want to fund the prosecution. Finally, international motives. Countries that were parts of the UN Genocide Convention at times were actually entangled and influential factors that contributed to these genocides happening. So it was not in their favor to call out this crime when they were actually kind of partaking in it. The political identity that some of the genocide victims associated with were seen as a threat by some countries, which prevented countries from stopping and labeling and ultimately labeled a lot of the victims as former enemies. And when I say victims, this is children, women, and men. The death count in Indonesia was around 400,000 to 1 million. In Cambodia, 1.5 to 3 million. And in Rwanda, in the span of 3 months, 1 million people were murdered. This is almost 4 million people. We need to hold the first world countries responsible for the negative effects they have on third world countries and on people of color. Human lives should not have price tags associated to them. It should not only be considered worthy when there is some profit that is attached to them. Despite these events happening a couple years ago, we still continue to see how colonization, financial funding, and international motives continue to play a role in genocides happening in our world today. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Bustamante-Lawi, and the title of my presentation is The Effects of Hormonal Imbalances on Women's Mental Health. So my research focuses on CSU Stanislaus Master of Social Work students' actual knowledge, attitudes, and perceptions about the effects of hormonal imbalances on women's mental health. For centuries, women have been punished for biological and mental health challenges that were not understood. People in ancient Greece and Egypt thought that the uterus would migrate to other areas of the body and cause a variety of mental health issues if women's wombs were not consistently gratified with sex or impregnation. Numerous women in America were persecuted and killed under the false pretense of being witches, even if it was possible that they suffered from mental health issues and other severe illnesses. The transition from a mythical to a scientific view of women's health took a long time. It wasn't until the discovery of hormones in the early 20th century that there was an actual scientific explanation for biological events in women. As part of my research, I conducted a quantitative survey of all CSU Stanislaus MSW students' actual knowledge, attitudes, and perceptions about the effects of hormonal imbalances on women's mental health. A total of 53 out of 188 students participated. The results showed that MSW students lack knowledge of the effect of hormonal imbalances on women. 96% of respondents felt that it is relevant information that social workers should be aware of, and 96% of students also feel that hormonal imbalances are not openly discussed. Now, you may be wondering, why is this important in social work? Today, biopsychosocial care is the foundation of social work services. It considers illness through biological, social, and psychological lenses, yet attention to the bio lens has been limited. This includes attention to hormones and their impact on women's mental health. Take depression. Women are twice as likely as men to be diagnosed with depression. This gender disparity begins at puberty and is most apparent when women are in their 20s through 50s during their reproductive years. Changes in women's hormone levels, particularly estrogen and progesterone, can create fluctuations in mood, sexual desire, ovulation, and fertility, all of which may lead to depression and other mental health disorders. Based on the preliminary findings of my research, MSW students recognize this need and want more information about the impact of hormones on women's mental health. We have the opportunity to change the way we educate and assess women's mental health challenges and improve our work. It is critical that social work incorporates the biological component if we want to improve our practice and advance women's overall well-being. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Abel Diaz, and I'll be presenting over the topic of the mental health intervention freestyle rap. So I work as a youth counselor at a group home program, and I've noticed that the problem behaviors these youth tend to display are the result of their mental health struggles. It is said that among populations of at-risk youth who do tend to struggle with their mental health tend to commit more crimes and also drop out of school more. So the purpose of the study is to lessen the mental health struggles of the group home youth. Effectively, what I seek to do is I seek to enact the intervention of freestyle rap with these youth. So in existing weekly sessions, I would have the youth write and share freestyles based on mental health topics like their coping strategies, their personal problems, their personal triggers, and their self-image. In terms of the design of the study, I intend to use a quasi-experimental research design of one group pre-test and post-test. I intend to use convenience sampling to obtain a population of anywhere from 8 to 12 group home youth. This study will use the measure the youth self-report questionnaire. I intend to select 30 behavior items from the questionnaire that deal with internalizing and externalizing behavior problems. So internalizing behavior problems are behaviors individual displays due to their internal struggles, like depression and anxiousness, while externalizing behavior problems are behaviors individual displays due to their interactions with their exterior surroundings, like physical aggression and property damage. These behavior items range from 0 to 2 attributes. 0 represents not true, 1 represents somewhat true, and 2 represents true. You've attached an attribute to how the behavior item relates to them. After these behavior items are scaled, I intend to use mean and median to analyze these behavior items to deduct the effect freestyle rap had on them by comparing pre-test to post-test. So as I mentioned before, the overall purpose of the study is to lessen the mental health struggles of the group home youth. From working at the program, youth who do struggle with their mental health tend to show more antisocial behaviors and lifestyles, which can ultimately lead to them being terminated from the program. It is crucial to address their mental health struggles while they're still at the program, due to the fact that many of these youth who have been terminated from the program have gone on to live in the streets per se. A lot of them have led lives where they were either joined gangs or took up a life of selling drugs on the streets. Thus, why this intervention is needed, as I propose more interventions like this one, freestyle rap, to treat the mental health struggles of group home youth, to prevent them from falling ill to such sad realities. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Guadalupe Marquez, and my topic is on understanding disproportionality, the inclusion of Indigenous history and healing to enhance our child welfare practices. So, ladies and gentlemen, so today I am thrilled to share with you the journey and impact of my graduate project, which was aimed to lead the development of the Master of Social Work Department's first annual Child Welfare Conference. So let's begin with a sobering statistic. Prior to 1978, 25 to 35% of Native American children were being removed from their homes. And about more than 90% of them were being placed in homes who were non-Native. So in essence, they were losing culture, a part of themselves, and their identity. So in 1978, the Indian Child Welfare Act was passed, and this was meant to preserve culture, preserve placement, and in essence, just to protect Native American culture against cultural genocide. And so through the conference that was held on March 22nd, it was last week or so, March 22nd, 2024, we aim to create a platform for learning and collaboration, fostering discussions between tribal representatives and participants to address this disproportionality. So my role in recruiting tribal agencies and facilitating discussions and also hosting a little mini workshop on understanding what it means to be Indigenous was crucial in achieving our goals. So our primary goal was to provide tribal leaders with the voice, allowing them to speak on healing in Indigenous communities,
within child welfare. Secondly, we aim to educate participants on the historical context and significance of the Indian Child Welfare Act in forming and enhancing social work practice. Lastly, by forging partnerships between tribal agencies and then county agencies, we aim to enhance internship opportunities with tribal agencies for current and future MSW students. The conference was a success, by the way, and it was a great opportunity as an Indigenous woman myself to kind of connect with my culture. And so in closing, my graduate project not only facilitated crucial conversations, but also laid the groundwork for tangible change in addressing racial disproportionality in child welfare.
Is this thing on? Oh. My name is Aisha Valdivia, and I'm a graduate student in the Department of Psychology. And the title of my thesis is Tribalism and Social Dominance Orientation Among Sports Fans and Its Effect on Intergroup Relations. Please raise your hand if you're a Niner fan. Raise your hand if you're a Raider fan. This is like dipping our toes into tribalism, a concept where people feel a strong connection to a particular group based on shared traits like ethnicity and religion, or even being a fan of the same sports team. Historically, people have united over commonalities, often creating an us versus them mentality. And a prime example of modern tribalism is sports fandom. This love for one's team, unfortunately, can result in negative consequences, such as division and biases against fans of opposing teams, with some fans thinking their team is superior and opposing fans as inferior. This attitude is often called social dominance orientation, or SDO. This concept suggests that the world is and should be structured with distinct social groups. In sports, it's like saying a team's superiority is based on how many wins it has or even how many Super Bowls they've won. Those with a strong social dominance orientation think that some groups are and should be better than others, which is linked to sexism and racism. As you can imagine, this way of thinking can lead to all sorts of problems. There hasn't been much research done linking SDO to sports fandom, indicating a significant gap in the existing literature. My study, however, aims to tackle this gap and offer valuable insights to the correlation of exploring how SDO impacts sports fandom. To do this, I'll ask participants about their levels of sports fandom, their preference for hierarchical societies, and how much they would accept social closeness with fans from their favorite team, as well as fans from their least favorite team. In my research, I anticipate finding that social dominance orientation and sports fandom will be positively correlated, meaning that those who think the world is made up of hierarchical groups will tend to be the biggest sports fans. Additionally, I predict that those with strong social dominance orientation will want greater social distance from fans of rival teams than those with a weaker social dominance orientation. So why is this important, you ask? Understanding the psychology behind sports fandom and its influence on different groups can offer important insights into how our connections to groups might affect how we view others. After all, in the game of life, it's not about winning and losing. It's about how we play together as a team. Thank you.
Good evening to all. My name is Christian Escamilla, and I represent the social work program. And I will be presenting Unlocking the Benefits of Dual Language Immersion Programs, a Path to Success for Child Welfare. So built on the backs of the immigrants, the United States has thrived as a country filled with rich and diverse people who have brought their cultures, customs, languages, and much more. Throughout our lifetime, the U.S. has experienced an unnatural and man-made phenomenon known as a generational language shift. The prevalence of linguistic diversity and increasing number of immigrants in the United States has resulted in a shift from multiculturalism to monolingualism, which English becomes the dominant force. With a great focus on language education, dual language immersion programs have emerged to promote bilingualism, biliteracy, and cultural humility among the students. With striving for educational equity. Dual language immersion programs look to promote students' understanding and appreciation of their own cultures and other cultures, celebrating our differences while recognizing our shared humanity. Dual language immersion programs offer unique opportunities to support children from diverse linguistic backgrounds, particularly within the Hispanic community. Data has shown that the Hispanic community has suffered cultural loss, language loss, and a sense of identity and belonging due to generational language shifts and other factors. By providing instruction in their native language and English, dual language immersion programs foster the preservation of language and culture, thereby strengthening children's sense of identity and belonging. Through the use of qualitative, in-depth interviews, the focus is on exploring the lived experiences of Latino adults who have gone through bilingual immersion education during their youth and the contribution it made to their health and well-being, which include a healthy functioning family life, academic success, employment, and language retention. The results of the interviews reveal that the participants equally claim positive experiences during the program, with benefits that are still displayed to this very day. Each of the participants expressed that their time in the dual language immersion program has positively affected their health and well-being, such as through strong cultural connections, language retention, language reinforcement, social connection, more job opportunities, more demand by employers, and higher academic achievement and honors. So what does this all say? The implications of his research are to understand the benefits of dual language immersion programs for Latino adults and to make a case for the child welfare system. For those in the system being raised in a culture outside their own, it is important that the child welfare system remains an advocate for retention of cultural identity and language when it comes to child placement, which is often forgotten by the system. By opening possible new pathways for child welfare to explore, such as dual language immersion programs for the Hispanic population in school placements, it can hinder the generational language shift, promote a more culturally focused standard of care, and ensure the identity of children are safe and appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Oreger Cervantes, and I am a social work graduate student, and my faculty advisor is Dr. Sivan Banks. My project is titled DACA Guide for the Master of Social Work, Study Abroad to Accra, Ghana. Currently, there is a research gap in literature between study abroad opportunities and DACA students with advanced parole. So DACA is the Program Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. And those individuals that benefit from this permit are able to travel abroad requesting advanced parole under three main categories: humanitarian, educational, and employment. Currently, Stanislaus State does not have an enrollment statistic number that represent or describes DACA students or undocumented students enrolled at the university. With this in mind, the Study Abroad Department at our university does not have an online resource section for DACA students interested to study abroad. So students, essentially, they don't have a resource that they can access to travel abroad with our campus programs. So the goal of my project is to provide a resource guide for DACA students who have the DACA permit active to travel abroad using advanced parole. So my current project will report the experiences of DACA students that participated in the Study Abroad Department's program to Accra, Ghana, and the students who were interested. So when I started looking for students, I came across 5 students that wanted to participate. And out of those 5, only one of them was able to participate. So this provides us a lot based on the gaps. So I myself and this student will be participating in the program this upcoming May. As a result of the project, my guide represents the steps that the students will take. So essentially, the steps will be to identify the study abroad program, in this case, the Masters of Social Work program. They need to complete a legal consultation with Immigration Legal Services. They need to obtain the required legal documents to participate. And they also need to pay a new filing fee of $630 to be able to request the advanced parole application. They also need to enroll in the International Social Work course with Dr. Banks, complete the visa requirements, review the travel safety guidelines, and then lastly, retrieve a travel history document once they return to the United States. I dedicate this project to DACA students who want to meet new environments and for future undocumented students who are waiting for the opportunity to travel abroad and to breathe the air from their homeland. So today I encourage you, as Stanislaus State leaders and members of our community, to help me reach this resource to more students and help me guide DACA students so they can be able to participate in study abroad opportunities in the future. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so before we go to the part that everyone's been waiting for, I just want to take a moment to applaud everyone that's in this room that made this event possible. Really, we're very, very grateful from the participants to the judges to our faculty to the support staff that made this event, that set it up. It would not be possible without you. So the moment we have all been waiting for, while the judges are compiling their scores for first and second place, we have opened up a form where the audience and participants are okay too, but one vote per person. We're going to choose a people's choice. It will be open until 8:20, and we will also be on break until that time. I wanted to point out that there are bags under the chairs for the judges and the participants. In case you did not see it, please take it home. It's our gift as a thank you. And I think I'm going to pass the mics to the judges. They're going to share a piece of advice while we're on our break, but please feel free to use the bathroom outside and eat our food.
Well, they had me write down my advice. But I just want to congratulate all the participants. Great job. Well done. One of the things that I thought of when they asked this question was some of my personal experiences. And what I've found in my journey is that if we strive to do our best in whatever we're doing, you never know who is watching, but someone is always watching. Maybe someone who might be able to open a door of opportunity for you. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of you. It's just so inspirational to hear all of your research and really makes me think of my recent doctoral journey. And so really my advice for you as you finish up and wrap up or continue your education is really to enjoy the journey. And so in addition to what you're learning about your disciplines, remember to take time to reflect what you're learning about yourself. And so I saw that come through tonight in your presentations, and I've enjoyed this night so much tremendously. Again, congratulations, everybody.
Thank you, and congratulations to everybody. We're all very proud of you for getting up here and doing that. This is hard to get in front of people and to speak. And so the advice that I gave was basically to not give up, continue to do the things that are outside of your comfort zone. This is a research competition, right? You're presenting things that you're supposed to be objective. You're looking at data, right? But I feel like tonight I watched a lot of you, walk, basically you kind of straddle that line in a good way of looking at things objectively, but also bringing in your personal experience, right? You opened yourselves up. You were vulnerable. You wore your heart right here, right?
Yes.
Especially when it's something you're all very passionate about.
Yes.
Right? And it's very evident in what you're doing. And so as somebody, I graduated from here, it's been a long time ago, right? But I continue to come back every once in a while for different things. And I see what made me proud of being a student here. So continue to do it. Don't ever give up, you guys.
I echo everything that's been said already. I'm just really amazed by everyone in this room. You guys have guts, right? And have gusto and resilience. So I really appreciate that. And I'm honored to be here today. So thank you guys.
keep going. I'm very impressed with everyone. I don't do placement necessarily, as Haley said, but we can definitely help you with your endeavors. How do I get all of this great stuff on my resume? How do I talk about it in an interview? How do I build that network? How do I find those folks that could potentially help me, right, without knowing that they're in the room? So definitely reach out to the Career Center on campus. Stay connected. You guys are all with your networks now. So again, congratulations to you.
Yes, drum roll. People's Choice goes to Juliana Bays Vargas.
Look at you. Thank you.
Okay, second place, let's do another drum roll, goes to Karina Garcia Aguilar. All right, and first place, we got to do a drum roll. It's only right. Goes to Jar Torres. All right, let's give a round of applause to our winners. Thank you all for coming.